So, Widowmaker's been the character that I'm going to personally call the new Genji. It's a character that everybody picks up for some reason when you're losing your match, everybody tries to win with, and everybody doesn't end up actually doing anything with. And overall, I've personally seen a lot of trash Widowmakers in my game, from Mercy mains trying her out for the first time to one-trick Widowmakers that just aren't doing way too much. But the question I'm going to ask today and try to answer is, why are there so many of these players, and kind of where did they come from? Because honestly, we haven't really seen them in way too many seasons before this. With all that said though, guys, let's get started. So, I think that the main reason why there's so many Widows this season is actually a pretty obvious one. And it isn't the fact that she's gotten way too much stronger. I mean, she kind of has, but not way too much stronger. And I don't think it's really the fact that the meta has changed too much, because it honestly hasn't really. I think it's the fact that the Overwatch League has come up, and we've been seeing so many good Widows in the Overwatch League. I mean, there's just an ungodly amount of Widowmakers that know what they're doing in that league. And when you're watching the Overwatch League, you can actually see a lot of what they're doing. And I think that's why so many people are trying to pick her up, because this is a great showcase of what Widowmaker can do. If you look here at the Overwatch League of Widow in the best possible situations, on the best possible maps, which we've been seeing quite often, you can see a character that can get picks by herself, that can seem to carry a game by herself, that can be very frustrating to play versus, and that is just fun to watch because she's up there, she's sniping, it's an enjoyable thing to watch. And I think a lot of people, after seeing the Overwatch League and seeing just the pure amount of Widowmakers, are thinking that, hey, maybe I could pick up this character. And while yes, there are some people that I think, can do pretty well with her, I think for a lot of players, this is kind of baiting them into playing a character that maybe they aren't the best at. But again, I think the Overwatch League is really the reason why so many people are picking her up, because there's a lot of showcase of talent, and it's a good place to show off where she's good at. And overall, she is just a good character in competitive and in esports, which we hadn't really seen before, because esports didn't really exist way too much before. Now, another reason why I think people are picking up Widowmaker is that there are just a lot more Widowmakers showing up because of the Overwatch League. And there's actually, right now, I feel like a lot more God-tier Widowmakers and a lot of really good Widowmakers. And I think that's because people see how good she could be, people put in a lot of time, a lot of practice, and they become good at her, and they put them into a match, and there we go. And that's all fine and dandy. But I feel like in a lot of cases, players are seeing these God-tier Widowmakers that are hitting shots all over the place in a game, and a lot of players think that they can do exactly the same. That with zero practice, by playing Genji, by playing Tracer, by playing Mercy, by playing Ryan, by playing whatever, they somehow will be able to pick up Widowmaker and do just as good as that other player. And I think that's, again, kind of baiting people into playing the character. And that's why we're seeing so much of her, because again, when you see a great player playing Widowmaker, it does seem unstoppable, and it does seem like something you might want to try out. And I guess with more and more good Widowmakers in the game, it's just going to bait more and more people to actually try to do the same thing. And something I want to mention right here is that I think a lot of people kind of forget that a lot of Widowmakers that are so good aren't actually from the rank that you're currently playing in. A lot of the best Widowmakers and a lot of the best hit scan you're playing with are on Smurf accounts. And I think right now a lot of Smurf accounts are baiting people into playing Widowmaker, because if you're playing in gold as a Widowmaker main, which you'll see quite often, completely carrying that game, you have like an 80% win rate as her, it's pretty obvious you're smurfing. Well, when people watch you and when people are playing against you and with you, again, they're gonna see, look at what this guy's doing, I could do that also. And even within the same game, a lot of people are gonna be baited out to try to pick up the character. And, I think Smurfs do add a big problem to that. It's something I don't personally love the best, but just kind of happens right there. And kind of considering Smurfs into here, I think something else that does show up a lot is that when you're playing versus a Widowmaker, it feels like you really can't do way too much. And for a lot of players, I think when they're feeling like they're stuck and in a slump, they think that, hey, what's a good idea to do here? Should I switch to somebody that can counter the Widowmaker? Should I switch to a tank? Or should I switch to a diver? Maybe I should do that. But I think the majority of players instead think to actually switch to the Widowmaker themselves and try to out-Widowmaker another Widowmaker. And I see that just about every game where the enemy team has a great Widow. We'll pick one up ourselves, and yeah, They usually don't do way too well. But I think that's another thing that a lot of people try to think about and a lot of people try to pull off. It just kind of happens sometimes. I think that overall, WIDOWMAKER just has a lot of hype around her right now. And with any other character, especially Genji as we saw in the past, when you have a lot of hype around the character, when there's a lot of people thinking that this new character that no one's really played way too much before, or, you know, that's just in general very hyped, is out there, people want to try them out. And especially when you're in a losing position, when it feels like no matter what you're going to pick anyways, it's just going to lose, so why even really try? I think Widow is the new Genji in that situation where, hey, maybe I'll pick her up, maybe it'll work, because sometimes it does. Sometimes your teammates do pick up Widow, and sometimes they will get those key picks. But again, a lot of situations I think people, you know, kind of don't. And I think why a lot of people also think that she's, you know, so good this season, and why so many people are picking her up, even though her stats aren't that great. I mean, they're only like around 50% at like Masters. That's not the best. But I think why so many people are deciding to finally pick her up is that she's been a extremely fun character to watch forever, but this is the first season in a long time where she's actually good. And she's not OP, I'm going to say, in any way, or at least for the majority of players. She's not OP at all. She can't really hard carry a game, just like Junkrat could in the last meta. But I think that she's finally good now. And there's a lot of bad players that just are finally picking her up and are finally deciding to try and play her and to try and learn her. And whenever that happens, you're going to have to go through a period where people don't know exactly what they're doing. Again, I'm going to talk about Genji. For the first 2 or 3 seasons, I felt like everyone was picking up Genji. No one knew what they were doing, but eventually, at least for me around Diamond rank, people kind of figured out what to do. People stopped randomly locking him in as much. And while yes, the problem still did occur, I think it went down quite a bit. The problem is, for here with WIDOWMAKER, she's kind of back at Season 1 Genji. A new frontier, a lot of people want to pick up the character, but no one with a good amount of time as her. And I think the bigger problem about her as well is that the only way to really get better at WIDOWMAKER is to play a lot of WIDOWMAKER. And in a lot of those games before you get good, you're going to have to not do way too much for your team. I mean, with Genji, you could kind of just press that ult button and at least do something during a team fight, but with Widow, you do need good aim. You do need to get picks almost no matter what. And even though she's actually kind of good this season, you do kind of have to expect that a lot of players won't be the best at her. And I guess the final thing I want to talk about right here is that WIDOWMAKER seems like a character that you can become the best with. And I think she seems like a character on paper that a lot of people would want to play. A lot of people want to play a character that can play by themselves, that can carry without their team, that can completely ignore their team, and that can climb up the ranks if you become really good at them. And WIDOWMAKER is a character that can do all of that. If you become extremely good at this character, you can do that. But I think a lot of people don't realize that they don't really want to put in the actual work to do it, and that a lot of people just don't fit the type of player that should be playing WIDOWMAKER. I mean, if you're a person that likes to make huge shot calls, that likes to make huge plays, pushing as your team, if you're playing Widow, you can't really expect to do much of that. And I think a lot of people kind of get out of whack why they're playing the character right now and just think that, you know, I should play this character no matter what type of player I am because she can get me to Grandmaster. And I think a lot of people are kind of thinking right now the WIDOWMAKER's the get to Grandmaster free type of character, like a lot of people are saying with Genji again, or with even Tracer. But I think WIDOWMAKER's not that type of character. I think WIDOWMAKER is probably one of the worst characters to pick up if you want to climb quickly, unless you already have another account with like 100 hours on the character. You'd probably climb faster by playing Junkrat, by playing Reaper, by playing even Symmetra. A lot of different characters would honestly do better than Widow with so little time on them. But I think, again, the illusion that you can just pick her up and do great with her is there, and a lot of people kind of picking that up. And I think that's why, in general, there are just trash WIDOWMAKER players in almost every single game that I play. And maybe a lot of games that you play. Especially I see a lot of WIDOWMAKERs in games where they don't really fit in that map, but, you know, maybe that's just me. Overall, I do actually like WIDOWMAKER. I like when there are people that are good at this character, and while it's probably one of my least favorite characters to play versus, when I have a good one on my team, I mean, that's pretty great. So I guess I can't complain way too much about all WIDOWMAKERs, but yeah, right now there are quite a few trash ones. So, I mean, if you're one of those, maybe put a few extra tens of hours into the training mode and improve yourself a little bit right there. But with all that said though, guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Just wanted to talk a bit about WIDOWMAKER today. and please the YouTube gods. So there you go with that. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like or hit the subscribe button to see more videos like this in the future. I think I want to talk about May pretty soon because she's getting a big change and we're going to see a lot more of her. And I know a lot of people kind of dislike the character, so I want to talk about her in the future. And if you'd like to see that, comment that down below and I'll try to get that out ASAP. Anyways, as always, guys, though, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And as always, have a wonderful day.